Welcome to the course of psychology. Here, from now, you are on a journey to learning psychology. What psychology means, what is psychology, how it started, and some basic terminologies in psychology. So, let's begin the journey to start our psychology. Okay, so psychology, the introduction. This is the introduction part of the psychology that I'm going to teach you, the introduction part, the first video. Next, you will be learning other things. So, what is psychology, first of all? Before you learn something, you must know what is that, right? So, what is psychology? Mind is the most complicated thing in the universe. Okay, so there are so many things in the universe, but mind is the most complicated thing which we cannot understand. Understanding the mind is so complicated, or maybe our mind is not so well developed to understand itself. So either of the two situations, either the mind is the most complicated thing in the universe, or the mind is not strong enough to understand itself. So the word psychology is derived from two words, psych and logy, which means study of the soul. So ancient times, people thought that we have to study the soul, how the human acts, the soul, the consciousness, all that, studying all those fascinated humans always. Even now, you have clicked this video because you're fascinated by the soul or the conscious mind. What is the human beings, why they do certain things, how the brain works, all that. People always had interest in learning those things. So that is what psychology means. Latin word for psychology, psychology is derived from Latin word, that is psych and logy, which means study of the soul. Okay, so Aristotle said that heart was the site of consciousness. Beginning, when psychology started, it was started by Aristotle, who told that heart was the site of consciousness. Whatever we do comes from the heart, which we know today is wrong. Everything is in the brain, we know. Consciousness comes from the brain. But according to Aristotle, heart was the site of consciousness. Now, Sigmund Freud is a very popular psychologist. He's a well known psychologist of greatest time. He built many theories which helped us shape our views on childhood, personality, etc. So, Sigmund Freud, you can see the photo of Sigmund Freud here. He is the greatest psychologist. So, he was the psychologist who did many theories and helped us. Those theories are used even today, and they help us build our views on what is childhood, what is personality, and how things work, all that. So now, how the study of human mind should be tackled? We know that studying the human mind is the most complicated thing. Human mind is the most complicated thing in the universe, and studying it is very difficult. So how will we study it? That is the question. So there are three ways of studying the human mind. That were three ways by which it could be tackled. We thought so: structuralism, functionalism, and psychoanalysis. These are the three ways in which you can tackle the human mind or tackle anything. So structure, what are these three things we will be studying? Let me just go ahead. So structuralism means how how things work. How do you think like that? How, what happens? But the question how the brain is working is difficult to answer. How does our brain work? That is very difficult. How things happen in the brain? How do we get thoughts? All that is very difficult, because how a person feels is might be different for different people. Like when I give you an ice cream, how do you feel eating the ice cream? How do you feel when I touch you? You can tell me that you feel warm, but the same warm sensation might be different for somebody else. Somebody might feel it is different. So different situations, people might feel different. Different people feel different in same situation. So that is the case why the structuralism concept failed. Structuralism means the structure of the thoughts, studying basically the structure, how the thoughts arise and how a person feels, the structure. So, but the problem with this is it failed. Structuralism wanted to solve the question of how people feel, how a person feels. So that is how, if you go to a person, if you go to a psychologist, they will question you. They ask you general questions like how do you feel when you touch this object. So those are one of the questions, but it is difficult to use this concept because different people might feel different. You may feel different when you eat chili. I may feel different. I may feel more hot when I eat a chili. I may feel more spicy, but somebody else might feel less. So the feeling is different in different people. Somebody might enjoy it, somebody might not enjoy it. So the feeling of how is different in different people. So that's the reason why the concept of structuralism failed. And it was given by Wundt and Edward Bradford Titchener. These are the famous scientists who gave the concept of structuralism. They first started. The scientist Wood and Edward Bradford Tishner started the concept of structuralism. They first began to ask people, how do you feel in this situation? But that is difficult because it failed, because the what people feel might be different for different people, or the way they express it may be different. So it failed. Now let's go to functionalism. I told you there are three ways mind was being tried to tackle: structuralism, functionalism. Now what is functionalism? The second one. So functionalism is why, the concept of why a person feels a certain way. The structuralism focused on how. How do you feel when I touch you? How do you feel when you eat a chili? How do you feel when you touch a cat? Do you feel happy by touching a cat? That was structuralism. But functionalism is why. Why do you feel like that? Why are you feeling the way you are feeling? So this was given by William James, inspired by Charles Darwin, the idea of adaptive behaviors. Because our behaviors keep adapting, right? So I feel the way I feel today because I might have gone through a certain situation. Like I met with an accident in a bike. So I'm scared of bikes now. So somebody will ask, so the psychologist will ask me, how do you feel when you, why do you get scared of bike? That is the question. Why do I feel the fear? How do you feel? I get scared. But different people may feel differently. Somebody might feel excited, somebody may get scared. But why I get scared? That is the question. I get scared when I drive the bike because I met with an accident previously. So that is behavioral adaptation. I have adapted to the bike. I am adapted to not driving the bike so that in future I don't have pain again. So that is inspired by William James, is inspired by Charles Darwin. This idea of functionalism was given by William James, who is inspired by Charles Darwin. That is adaptive behaviors. Charles Darwin gave evolutionary process, right? Adaptation. So idea is inspired by him. Charles Darwin was another scientist who gave that. Okay, so William James is a scientist who is inspired by him. Now, William James published a book called Principles of Psychology. In the book Principles of Psychology, he mentioned this concept of functionalism. That is why humans behave a certain way. Why humans behave in a way, why they feel a certain way. That functionalism concept was given in the book Principles of Psychology in 1800 by William James. Now, psychoanalysis. This is the third concept. I told you structuralism, functionalism, and psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis is third one, given by Sigmund Freud. He used dreams, projections, and free association to root out repressed feelings and gain self-insight. What does this mean? Sigmund Freud makes people talk. So, if you go to a psychologist, he will ask you to describe things, how you feel if you are in a problem, how one way of feeling good. If you are feeling mentally unstable, a way of feeling mentally good is by talking. By talking, how you feel, by imagining that. So, by speaking and by telling the psychologist how you feel, your half pain gets reduced. That is psychoanalysis. By talking and by using dreams, projections, by imagining things, by using dreams, projection, and getting and bringing out the inside feelings. There are few feelings which might be deep rooted in your brain. It might be inside your brain which you don't realize. You might be feeling sad, but you don't realize why you're feeling sad. So you go into depression. But when you talk out, when you start talking, the reason for that starts to come out. You begin to realize why you're feeling sad when you start to imagine the whole thing. Then you start feeling better. So when you talk, you feel better. So by using dreams or by projecting how you're feeling or by using free association, by freely associating different things to root out. Sigmund Freud did all these to root out the repressed feelings, the feelings which are repressed in the brain, hidden in the brain, and to gain self insight of a person. For you to gain self insight of yourself, and Sigmund Freud wanted them to gain a self insight, to see themselves inside. That is psychoanalysis. This is a method of understanding the brain by psychoanalysis. It remains in practice even today. As I told you, if you go to psychologists, they will be asking you. Now, after learning all these three methods, we now have given a definition to psychology, that is psychology's science of behavior and mental processes. It is all about recording human behavior and mental processes. There's no single way to study the brain. As I told you, brain is the most complicated thing in the universe. There's no single way to study it. It must be tackled from all the possible sides. You must go through all the sides to study the brain. Whatever possible way you feel is, you must apply that. Only then you can study the brain. There's no one particular way. You must tackle it with all the possible ways. So that's it for today. You have begun your journey to learning psychology. Now you know the introduction to psychology, different ways of learning, like structuralism, functionalism, psychoanalysis. These are the three ways in which human brain was tried to tackle, and some of it is being used even today. And you learn the definition of psychology, that is the science of human behavior and mental processes, as you can see. So thank you. That's it for today. And subscribe to the channel would be really fantastic. Thank you very much.